Welcome back, folks. I'm kind of in a tight bind to get this bike done. So anyway, I just got home from work, so I'm gonna try and get as much as this thing done and maybe pull an all-nighter. But I figured I'd fill y'all in because last time I think I was getting the bike sanded and getting it ready for paint and mocking the tank up. So that's been done. So show you the bike now. I got parts of it kind of scattered all over. My shop's a wreck. I got bikes scattered everywhere. But I got the frame, got it all sanded down, got a new shiny coated gloss black, little Rust-Oleum on the frame. And the other night before it started raining here, I was able to get some of the tins and some other pieces powder coated. I really like how the silver looked on the rascal that I did. So I was like, oh, let's put some on this bike and make it a kind of a silver and black, because I like how the other one turned out. Anyway, I got parts scattered everywhere. But this is the 196 motor that came in it. Ripped it all apart. This bike hardly has any runtime on it, so we're just gonna give it a little extra kick in the step. So what we're gonna do is picked up a Mod 2 cam and 22-pound springs. Oh, powder coating ovens just went off. Anyway, like I was saying, picked up a Mod 2 cam, 22-pound springs from Go Power Sports. New side cover gasket. Always keep you a couple of these handy. So we need to get the springs put in the head. I got all the parts cleaned up, got them all lined out here. We're going to go back to the same piston and rod. Normally, if you're doing anything like this is where I would suggest putting your billet rod in. You know, billet rod is what you want if you really want to try and keep the motor from blowing up, and billet flywheel. But in this particular case, I know this fella really well, and he's basically just going to cruise the bike around. But you know, there is that certain time where you want to be able to put a little extra kick in the step. So we're going to bump it up with, like I said, Mod 2 cam, some springs. I didn't do too much with the head. I did middle a little bit off the bottom of the head, clean the runners just a little bit, nothing too fancy. We're not getting too carried away with it. So I got to get this thing put together tonight. I got some of the other stuff I'm powder coating right now for it. But this is the plan, is to get this rascal at least get the motor put together. So that's what we got going on. And let's see if we can't knock this thing out and see if I can give you some pointers on what I do and maybe what I don't do right. But it's worked so far. Anyway, let's get this thing built. All right, folks, you're going to have a seat right there, because I just try to put my GoPro thing on my head so you can kind of get a bird's eye view, but the little chingaletta that goes on the whirly jig, it broke off. So yeah, so anyway, you're gonna have to sit right there and we'll see if we can't knock this out. What I like to do is before I start this build, make sure I got all my parts lined out, crack me a cold one, and today we're gonna have us a nice IBC cream soda to get started. All right. Ooh, that's good stuff. I got a little motor oil right here so I can oil all my parts. You can use assembly lube. A lot of times I like to use 105 assembly lube, but today we're just going to use a little motor oil, lube everything up, not get crazy. See if we can't get this done. So I'm gonna, anything that moves is gonna get oil in it. The back of the cam bearing boss back here where your cam ride's in the back. Some of this here bearing. Seals are already in it, so we're going to put a little bit on the crank. Journal of the crank. Get this slapped in here. This into the crank. I'll go ahead and put me a little bit on the cylinder wall. We don't want to get too crazy, but I just like to get it where it slides in the piston to slide in there. Grab paper towel over here. All right. Let's go ahead and put the piston and rod back in it. Take the cap off. Got a bunch of other stuff cooking in the oven, so I'll be turning the camera on and off and going grabbing that stuff because I gotta let it cook for like 25 minutes. So it'll go off here in a second. All right, all these rings are real good, but what we're gonna do is just stagger the rings where you have your one opening here, one down here, one on the side. You don't want all your ring gaps lined up together, because you got them all lined up together, that's going to probably cause you a big problem. So we're just going to stagger the rings around And I'll just put me a little light coat on the skirt down through the rings, just like so. That way when you got in the ring compressor, this time I'll use a ring compressor. Y'all probably seen me do it before with 2 screwdrivers. It's what you're really not supposed to do. And actually the other ring compressor that I'm looking for, I think is at a buddy's place. But we're gonna try my bigger one for V8s, so we can find where I did with the stinking wrench. All right, got the wrench. I'll put me a little bit of oil right on the inside of this. I already wiped it out and it's clean, but that way piston slides out of it and you don't have nothing binding up. All right, so you got an arrow on your piston. This is a stock piston to come out of it, so you got an arrow. Arrow always faces down towards the bottom side of the block. Double check my rings one more time. They look good. We're going to put a little dab of oil on the end cap, rod cap while we're there. All right, rings look good. We'll lay them inside here, give them a little squish. We're going to see how many times it takes me to get this assembly in on camera. You know how things go when people are watching you, it never goes right. Make sure everything looks good, nothing's in a bind. I usually roll a little bit so we can get a little bit more snug. Make sure to keep my ring compressor square. That looks good. I think that'll probably jive. Roll that where it's out of the way. All right, the only thing I didn't grab was a hammer. You don't want to beat on the piston with the metal part of it, so I just use the rubber part of the hammer, and this falls right out. Let's roll this down a little bit. Oh, see? Look at that. Right on camera and messed it up the first time. You're not supposed to do this when you're in a hurry. And I'm in a hurry. Oh, timer went off. Dang it. All right, let me go grab that. All right, sorry folks. I come over and got the piston in. I come back from swapping out stuff in the powder coat and putting in stuff in the oven and realized I didn't have the camera on. But I do have the piston in and the rod tightened down. Now, when you're building a motor, torque everything down to spec. You can find the specs. Chicago Power Sports, I think it's on their website to torque stuff down. I've been putting small engines together for I don't know how long, so I kind of got my own method of putting them together, especially my stuff. Now, if this was something I was doing for a customer or a race motor application, I definitely torque everything. Put even oil on the threads on the bolts. I go through the whole 9 yards. But this particular application, I'm not. I'm just getting it. I'm going by my old school method of popping. My wrist normally pops around 14 to 18 foot-pounds. My elbow pops around, 18 to 23 foot-pounds. My shoulder probably pops around, 40, 50 pounds. So whenever my joints start popping, I know it's pretty tight. Real funny, huh? Gotta stay dehydrated. All right, so anyway, I got the rod in. You got a timing dot right here on the side. I'm gonna see if I can zoom in. So if y'all never done this before, I can try and make it as simple as possible. So now before we go to put the cam in, this is 105 assembly lube. I usually put just a little bit on the tappets, your lifters, whatever you'd like to call them. This way, this 105 will hold them up inside the block. So if I'm rolling the motor around, they won't fall nowhere. And this is, like I said, this is just a 105 assembly lube, molly lube, whatever you would like to call it. I put just a little bit on there and that holds them into place. Right up inside there. Then I'll smear a little bit on the face of them as also. Not too much, just a little dab. And I'm gonna lube the cam when you stick it in there, but I'm gonna see if I can educate you folks. I see a lot of people, they'll say they replace their cam and set their valve lash and it kicks back, yanks the rope out of their hand, or doesn't want to run right. Let me pull one of these back out. I think what a lot of people do, I'm not an expert, I'm just trying to help people out. This is your cam release. Make sure y'all can see this. This is your cam release, this little tab right here. So as the motor starts spinning RPMs, this weight comes down and slides this little tab back in. If you can see that right there, it pulls that back out just like so. So I think what a lot of people do when they have problems, they stick their cam in, they probably have their dots lined up, but when you're rolling the motor to get it at top dead center, I usually back it off top dead center just a hair, because basically I think what people are doing is when they're trying to adjust it is you have this, let's see, can you see that? You have this tappet, the face of the tappet sitting on the compression release when it's not actually sitting on the cam, when it should be sitting flat on the cam. See, if you get it right here, you see that gap in between the tappet and the cam. I think that's where a lot of people have problems that are new, that haven't put one together before. So I always tell people, bring it up to top dead center, then roll it back down just a hair. That way you know as that cam rolls up and you roll it just a hair more, you're off the cam release tab, this little tab right there. If that makes sense to y'all, I hope it does. Everybody's got their own method of doing it. That's usually what I tell people. You want to make sure and bring it up to top dead center, then back down just a hair so you're not on the cam release, because that right there throws your valve adjustment way out of whack. So hopefully maybe that'll help somebody. But I'm going to go ahead and stick this tappet back in here, lifter, whatever you like to call it. And then some big cams, when you're putting cams in motors, you got to make sure, and they tell you, check for clearancing. So people have plates that you can put on here that will actually hold your cam, because when you're rolling the motor over, the cam will kind of move around. But you want to make sure as you're rolling your motor all the way around that you don't have any part where your lobe could be hitting the lobes of your crank, or your rod could be hitting on the inside somewhere. So you never want to grind on the lobe of the cam. You know, sometimes I've had to go in and clean the shaft of the camshaft up a little bit, or you might have to come in here and grind some off the top of your crank. If you do that, you got to make sure not to hit the journal of the crank where your rod rides. I've already went through and stuck this one in to make sure everything clearance, but I'll kind of see if I can show you just as well. Since I already got the lube out, we'll go ahead and smear a little bit on the lube. We're going to lube some lobes on the lobely cam. And I already got some in the back. I'll put a little bit more right there. I'll run and drop the oil after I go through a couple heat cycles anyway. So we're going to line up this here, see if you can get where we can see this. You got a dot right here on your camshaft, which I need to roll it down just a hair, just like so. My tappets are in. Then I'm going to look for my dot right here on the camshaft. And basically when you slide it in there, the cam is actually going to turn just a hair, if I can see, not get my head in the way. And it should fall right into place just like so. So when you get done, both of your dots right here will be lined up for your crank gear and your cam gear. And this is where you would want to roll it, shine your light down inside here, and roll your motor completely around and make sure you have plenty of clearancing where your lobes aren't hitting your crank or your cam. This is just a Mod 2 cam. Usually get away with the Mod 2 or the other cams like that. High lift cams, you make sure you want to roll your motor through and nothing hits. Because I have had some where I've had to polish the crank down. So, or not the crank, I'm sorry. Polish the cam down so you have clearance. So that's what they're talking about as far as checking your clearance on everything. So everything rolls good. It's like so, dots are lined up. Everything's there. I'm gonna go grab my gasket. I have a new gasket. Anytime I'm putting one together, you don't have to do this. I use a little K&W copper coat. My head gaskets out there are getting copper coated right now, or drying. So I'll take this out, hang it up, spray me a light coat of K&W on it. Like I said, you don't have to. I've always done it. And then we'll get this put back together. Let's go ahead and drop the dowel pins. You have 2 dowel pins that go in them. One's gonna go right here. I have all this cleaned off now. I got my greasy fingers all over it. All right, let me go out there and throw a coat on this, and we'll be right back. All right, got my copper coated side cover gasket. Got my dowel pins in. I'm going to just lay this pretty rascal right here. It's good. All right, side cover's clean, except for that little piece of whatever that was. I'm gonna drip a little oil down in the side bearing here, just for giggles. Go. Since it's got a little lube, and put a little bit on the cam, a little bit on the crank. Don't need to get crazy, just a little nice coat. All right, got some bolts right there. All right, we'll double check everything. That's tight. My dots are still lined up. Nothing got moved. Tappets are in, so ease this down. And she should fall right into place. Well, there it is. All right, put a little dab of oil in each one of the bolts, the side cover. And grab me a tin somewhere. Might have majority of this thing put together tonight, maybe. Got kind of plans for it for the weekend, so, but I still got to finish building the whole rest of the bike. That's why I'm trying to get a bunch of stuff powder coated tonight also. Let's see, grab my tin here. So I can get everything powder coated. Might start assembling everything maybe tonight, but it don't look like it. Pulled a late one last night. Getting stuff done. Now I just stagger these, and I'm tighten the bolts down, get them all snug. That way everything goes, the side cover goes down smooth, nothing gets in a bind. I'll snug them all, and then I'll cross tighten them. And this, like I said, folks, when you're putting your motor together, get your torque specs. But this ain't a race motor. I know what this motor's gonna be doing. It might be sitting a lot. We never know, but I would definitely say torque everything. But in this particular case, today Rick is not gonna torque it. Yep, see that? That's my elbow popping. Yep. I guess getting old has its advantages, huh? I'm gonna go over them one more time, just for giggles. One more. And the bottom one. All right. We're gonna roll everything, make sure everything jives. Look at that. It's like butter. All right, let's set this over to the side. Grab this head, and we're gonna throw some springs. We've got a little lash cap. We got to make sure not to forget. But I usually put that in right last after I got the head and everything, so I don't drop it. But we're just gonna roll these keepers over, pop them up, set that right there. And you got an intake. On your intake, you got a seal down there, so we're just gonna slide this. Actually, we don't even need to slide it out. I already got everything clean, but I wanted to put the springs on. So we're going to drop a set of 22 springs in it. Line that up right so. We'll take the keeper. This is pretty easy, just push this down. Well, it's a little bit more tension than the stock ones. Put it back in there just like so. A little bit easier if you got your rock arms out of the way, but we're gonna be just fine. All right, one on the exhaust side. All right, y'all get out of my way. Same thing, just push it down and slide it over. Oh, those are like really nothing in it. So there's your real small, real squishy. A lot better. All right, set that right there. Actually, I'm putting a little paper towel underneath there. That way it'll push against the face of that valve and keep it in place. And there we go. That's it. We're all good. That's some spring pressure now. And like I said, the lash cap goes right down inside there on your exhaust side. But just so you don't have any problems, don't need to fall out. I'm gonna wait and put the valve lash cap in last, right before I adjust my valves. That way I don't drop it while I'm doing anything. All right, this is all clean. We're gonna sit that right there. I'm gonna wipe this down one more time. I'm gonna hit it with a little brake cleaner. If I can get the spray, there we go. Rub the nozzle off that. Make sure this is good and clean. Like I said, I copper coated the gasket, so I'll run out there and grab that. We're going to go ahead and stick the dowel pins in. One right there. Wipe them off, make sure ain't nothing on them. I cleaned all this stuff earlier, but we'll wipe it off one more time. Should slide right in. All right, let me go grab the gasket, and we got head bolts. Let's go ahead and dribble a little oil in the head bolts. You don't want a whole lot, just a little light coat. That way the excess will drip off. All right, let me go grab that head gasket. All right, that's good and clean. So we're gonna take the head gasket. Set it right there. Take our clean head. Let's wipe this off one more time. All right. We should be back in business. All right, the dowel pins. Set it straight on. Our 4 head bolts in it. I think these are a 13 if I remember right. Yep. And this is the same thing. I'll get them all just run down and snug. That way it holds the head in place. And then I'll go along when I'm tightening them. Actually, I'll get a bigger ratchet, 3/8 ratchet, and I'll cross tighten them. And if you're torquing them like you're supposed to be, that's what you would probably want to do the same thing. Don't get one all the way tight and go to the next one. Stagger them. That way your head is evenly torqued down to the block. All right, we got them all seated. Let's grab a 13. All right. All right, we'll go one more time. All right, that's that. Let's go ahead and drop the push rods in it. You show me a light down in here, see where I'm at on top dead center? Yeah, we'll bring it all the way up. We'll roll it down just a hair. Make sure I got it and tap it down there. Then we'll adjust the valves. Find a feeler gauge for that. All right. Let me go find a feeler gauge because I had one out there. Well, before we get too carried away, let's go ahead and put the drain plugs in it so we don't lose them rascals. That would not be good. Build a motor and then forget to not put your drain plugs in. Got one in the front. One more in the back. Dope. All right, I'm gonna turn you off for a second. Take a little refreshment here. Okie doke. Let me go find a feeler gauge. Be right back. All right, got my feeler gauge. So we're gonna, the intake side is gonna be a .002. Exhaust side is a .003. That's where we're gonna sit these puppies at. Take my lash cap. Make sure there's nothing on the inside that lash cap. I'm gonna wipe it out a little bit. Just wanna make sure this seats all the way down on the end of that valve stem. Make sure there's nothing in it. So sometimes I'll put a little dab just right there. That way it holds it into place. Should fit all the way down flush. All right, we'll take a 13 millimeter. We're gonna loosen the nuts and set these valves. If I can get my hands to work. Then back these off and make sure my push rod's in place down there. Just gonna snug these back up. All right, we'll go ahead and just set this one since I already got it on there. Little snug. I want just a little bit of a drag on that wrench. I mean that feeler gauge, not wrench. If you pull this feeler gauge out and it pow, and it pops shut, then you know you're too tight. But you want just a little bit of a drag on there. You always want to sit your valves on a motor when it's cold, because everything, when the motor heats up, everything is going to expand and contract. So sit your valve lash when the engine's cold. That's what I was always taught. That's what I always do. So get that pretty snug. Come back and double check it. Ah, got tight on me. Now, this is something you really can't get in a hurry to do. I think where a lot of fellas, they'll get in a hurry trying to get their valve lash set, and that will cause you problems with your bike kicking back, not wanting to crank. Like that right there. So we can just hold this 13 and then slowly tighten that down. Yeah, that's a little tight, but I think we'll be fine there. Yeah, that'll be fine. All right, we're gonna do the same thing over here. Loosen the jam nut. Slide your push rod underneath there. Make sure it's in the little pocket on your rocker arm. Looks good. Is it in there? Yep. All right, and this side is going to be a .002. So I get that back one about finger tight. Feels kind of good. Take 13 and hold that. And it moved. See what it feels like. Yeah, it moved. So we can just back this back off just a hair. Oop, that's too tight. Thought I could cheat it. That feels good. Let's see if we can get it to stay there. Get my fat fingers in there. Yeah. I like that. That feels pretty good. Let's roll it over and check everything. Oh, stuff's done in the oven. Looks pretty good. Where are we at on top dead center here? Right there. Back it down a hair. All right. Got to go change stuff in the oven. Let me find the valve cover and the gasket. We'll get that bolted up. see if I'll go grab the flywheel. We'll get the flywheel and fan on. Let's go ahead and close this hole up. I went ahead and drilled the tap some threads in this for a crankcase breather. I don't want dirt getting in it. Let's plug that up for the time being. All right, let me go change some stuff out in the oven. We'll be right back. All right, got my valve cover gasket. Already wiped this out, make sure this is clean. Got my gasket clean. Lay that right inside there. Powder coated, look at that. Snazzy. Lay that right up there and put a few bolts in it. I think these are 8mm. Two more at the top. And let's see. Oh, we got to get the charge coil put on before we put the flywheel on. I just noticed that. That's what happens when you get in a hurry. It'll be fine. And I need to go find the piece I powder coated the little fan shroud back here on the back. I need to go grab that because I think the wires for the charge coil run through that. Spin it around here, but we just lay it over on its side right there. Don't want to scratch my powder coat up. All right, let's grab the charge coil. Let me see where that piece is that I painted. Look at that. Shiny gloss black. All right, this is gonna go, probably if I put it the right way. All right, that goes right there. And my rubber grommet goes through there. So probably ought to try and put this on all together, I reckon. All right, that looks good. We'll lay this to the side, at least get the charge coil up here. All right, you got top and bottom. Looks like so, and I got the 4 bolts right here. I think these have a little boss thing. Yeah, these have like a little bitty tab that stick out on the side of them on the back of your charge coil, so they need to make sure they're gonna go in the standoffs right inside. So when you put them in there, make sure you they sit down there flush before you get them all torqued down. Let's see, make sure I'm not missing anything. All right, this goes down. Is that down? That looks good. One more here. That feels good. All right, let's see if we can slide this in place where it goes. It should go right there in the fan shroud bolt. So I need one long bolt. Where did that go? I think that's this one right here, I do believe. Yes. So go right here. Give me extension. Let's see, I think it's lined up. Yep. Let's see, right. That looks good. So we got to put the bottom bolt. And there was a little bracket that goes right here. And I do believe it's this bolt that holds the electrical wire down so it doesn't get hung up in anything. I think it went this way right here, just like so. There we go. That way it keeps that wire from jumping up and whacking into the flywheel. All right, that done. Let me go find the flywheel. All right, got my flywheel. I went and threw some paint on it. If you do paint them, make sure your contact where your coil hits, your magnet, on the inside and outside if you have charge coil. Make sure you get the paint off of them. That way you get don't mess with the electrical current or whatever you want to call it, spark that's traveling through it. All right, that's good. This rascal right here. Come on, line up. Right here. No, that's backwards. One more time. There it is. All right, that ring stays there. And where did I put the cup at? Thought I just had it right here. Oh, it is right here. All right, just gonna go with the little notch right there. Take the nut. And this is also something you would probably want to find your torque specs for and torque properly. But today, we're using impact. Don't hate me. There you go. Torque. Now we got the flywheel on. We'll grab the coil and set the coil gap. This is all clean. You'll make sure if you're replacing your coil that your magnet's good and clean. There's no rust here and here. And also on the bosses that your coil bolts to on the block, that way there's no rust on it. So you make sure you get a good contact surface. So I'm gonna roll this back so we see what's going on. So in this particular one actually has a ground wire on it. And where did I do the 2 bolts that I had laying? Right here. Right here. Put one in the top. Get it started. And grab the ground wire, bring it right there. Actually, I think it's flipped that way. I'm gonna just get these snug down. And I grabbed the wrong bolt. Am I missing a bolt? I grabbed the wrong bolt. All right, let me go find that bolt. All right, now I got the right bolt. Got too many projects on the table at one time. All right, I'm gonna snug these back down. It's enough where I can still have a little bit of movement in the coil, but it's not jumping all over the place. And I'm gonna set this coil at 35, so that'd be a 0.035, and I'm gonna slide it right underneath the back edge. Then I'll push this down just lightly where the magnet kind of just pulls it to it. Then I'll get this in a little snug, not too tight. You want to be able to roll it up here and catch your top part, or the top leg, just like so. Push it where it barely touches, gets it. Now we should be good. I'll give this a snug. Roll it back down here and check the bottom again. Feels good. Now we tighten her up. All right. I don't remember where this wiring went. This is for that's for your keel. Need to clean this up a little bit. All right, let me see what we can go find and go from there. All right, we'll go ahead and put the fan shroud on it, and I think we're probably gonna call that a wrap. I got a mess I need to clean up before I get the bike up on the table and start building it. Cause got some stuff I still gotta get powder coated tonight. So we'll get this put on here, and might just call it a day for this part of it anyway. But I painted this, not painted, I powder coated this. And this was the same color. If you didn't see my Rascal video, I did that like that. God, I can't talk. I did that bike black and this powder coat silver. And man, I really like the way it looks. So I was like, well, since I already had some mixed up or in the container, I'll go ahead and hit this with some silver. So turned out pretty sharp. And then I have the, I'm cooking the starter right now, the starter assembly. And it's gonna be a glossy black. Man, I can't talk. And I can't get my fingers to work either. It's been one of those days, folks. You know what I mean. I'll get all the rest of the parts lined out, and I think that's probably about all I'm going to stick on this tonight. I might throw the carburetor on there and the side pieces, or the intake pieces. And a little bit more here. Alright, good deal. And I got this. I need to wipe this down because this is this goes on these 196 motors, little spacer, so that goes on there. Too bad it's a cheesy plastic, but what can you do? All right, well, we got that much of it built and ready to go. So we'll call that a day on that, and I need to start cleaning up and get stuff ready to put in the frame together. So we'll see y'all soon on that.